Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworking's podcast. So I haven't really been up to a great deal. I've been kind of messing around with solar panels and that kind of stuff for the van that I have not bought yet. But that's pretty much all I've been doing. I have actually got projects to do. So in the past, I have actually had people ask us about Patreon or courses. So I'd really appreciate a little bit of feedback from people. So I am kind of thinking about starting a Patreon or doing some sort of courses where I'll basically, build a piece of furniture on the room and workbench, and obviously it'll be very detailed. There'll be plans available and so on and so forth. So I am kind of looking into maybe doing a course or putting those courses on Patreon. So I wouldn't mind a bit of feedback from people. Is there anybody interested? I obviously know there is, like a small number of people, that have said to us that I should be doing something like this, and they would happily, join the Patreon. But yeah, I'd really like, some feedback. It would be much appreciated. Even if you just go onto my Instagram and you just type me on the somewhere in the comments, it would be really appreciated just to give us kind of a number of what I could be expecting. Obviously, if I am going to do this, it means, it's going to be taking up more of my time. So kind of, my day job might have to go, which I keep on trying to get out of my day job, but it's not happening. But, so if there is people interested, I'd really appreciate it if you kind of just even if you type me in the comments, just so I get a number. Right, so what impressed me this week? So as usual, flicking through Instagram, I spent so much time on Instagram, too much time as it happens. So I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across a metal clamp. Now, this wasn't just any old metal clamp, it was a cam clamp, or at least it had a cam clamp system on it. So anyone that doesn't know what a cam clamp system is, it's basically it's kind of in the shape of like a clamshell. So you've got your center point, and it kind of works. The way the clamp was set up, it was set up as like an F clamp. So basically, you would close the clamp on your piece of timber, and then you would pull the lever. On an F clamp, you would tighten it with a bolt with a handle, but this you actually pull it. So it's got its pivot point, and as you pull the handle, because it's in the shape of a clam, if you like, or a shell, it actually tightens. The more you pull it, the more it tightens. So kind of that's how it tightens. It's I've seen quite a lot of wooden style clamps used in guitar making. I have seen those quite a lot, but I've never ever seen a metal style one. So obviously this was produced, I don't know when, it looked a very old clamp, but I will leave a link for anyone that wants to check that out, if anyone appreciates things like that, like myself. So the other day, my next door neighbour who works for the local council, he does bits and bobs, everything. I think for the council, he removes rubbish and he does a bit of gardening and whatnot. So he actually gave us a shout over the garden fence, and he says, "Listen, I've got this table. I think it's oak." I was going to do something with it, but I'm not kind of not going to do anything now. Do you want it? So I jump. Obviously, I didn't jump over the fence. I walked drunk because I'm getting old now. So I walked round, and I had a look, and it was oak. It was a solid oak top, and the legs were there was like an MDF centre, and then you had oak going around, and then the legs were veneered to make it all, to look all nice and prim and proper. So I said, yeah, I'll take it. There is splits in the top. Those aren't like a major problem. Those can be sorted out, the splits. They were quite, they were quite clean splits, if that makes sense to people, so, I could easily, straighten that out, say, with a plane and then re-glue it back together. It's not an issue. So, I'm not overly sure what I'm going to make with it. It pretty much, the top's probably the most usable part. Probably be able to use a couple of the aprons, although there was quite a few holes there, screw holes in them, so I would have to dowel those up. But yeah, I'll probably still be able to use quite a bit of it. But obviously the tabletop itself, it will be very usable after I've spent a bit of time on it. So going along with that, I thought I would just talk about, kind of my experiences, what I've had over the years with reclaimed timber, the likes of Pallet Wood and whatever else. So just because it's free doesn't mean it's good. So when I first kind of started out, kind of woodworking, I didn't have the money to go out and, go and buy oak and stuff. And even if I did have the money to go out and buy oak, I wouldn't have had a clue where to get it from. I mean, the state of affairs now, with social media and the internet, it is quite easy just to go online and find out whereabouts you can get wood from. And obviously with the way logistics are, you can get it delivered. Sometimes, you might pay through the nose. Sometimes you might be able to get a decent deal. And sometimes where I do find myself, I might be passing not too far away from the wood yard, and I'm able to get, just to call into that wood yard, it might be half an hour out of my way, 20 minutes out of my way, and I'm able to call into the wood yard, pre-order some oak or whatever, pick it up, on my way up the motorway. So, but back then, as I said, I didn't have the money, so whenever there was free wood going about, I would try and get it. And as I've just said, just because it's free doesn't mean it's good. So, me first sort of learning curve was kind of veneered wood, or laminated materials. So, you'd hear a friend or a member of the family say, oh, there's someone's chucked a table out, or someone's thrown a table out, or someone's thrown a cabinet out, or someone's thrown drawers out. It looks like good, decent wood. But the friend or the member of the family hasn't got a clue about wood. And at the time, I really didn't have, I didn't have much of a clue myself, So obviously you go to the destination and you'd look at the wood, or you would examine it. I mean, pretty much now when I look at a piece of furniture, I can pretty much, before I'm even within 1 foot of the furniture, I might be approximately a meter away, and I can identify, what the material is, meaning, like, is it made from chipboard, ply? Is it possibly veneered? Is it solid wood? By the time from the time of seeing it to walking up to it to touching it, I've pretty much got a good idea of what it is. But back then, obviously, didn't have a clue. So I think that's a bit of a problem with newcomers. They might have someone tell them that there's something, there, and, they should go and have a check of it, and I think that's where people kind of, not necessarily, mess up or screw up, but they might, waste the time trying to get this material or this chest of drawers or whatever, back, very, mistaking it for solid wood when it, it might be something else. So, one of the giveaways, straight away, for me anyway, if it's laminated, you should be able to tell, it should look pretty tacky. If you feel it's not going to be good. And obviously you should be able to see the strips, the end strips, that should give it away as well. There'll be no end grain. Obviously if you look at the end grain of a piece of oak or a piece of pine or any type of hard wood, any type of real wood, you'll know what I mean. So the grain pattern on a laminated section will be the same on the side as it is on the end grain, and that's a dead giveaway. You will see this on veneered material as well. So, it might be, I don't know, veneered oak, let's say, for argument's sake, but it's the same again, where you should know where the end grain should be, on the edge of it, it won't be an end grain pattern. It'll be a long length or along the grain pattern. So, okay, that's like a giveaway for, at least for me it is anyway, so, as I said, just because it's free, it doesn't mean that it's going to be good. I mean, it kind of depends, what you would want it for. I mean, don't get us wrong, even now, if I'm passing somewhere, maybe if I'm passing a skip, or wherever I may be, and if I see some sheet material, me being me, I'll go over and investigate. I'll go over and see what it is and whatever. And if it's ply, I'll normally take the plywood. If it's decent, I will take it. That is if I can physically get it. But if I think it's worth it and I can't get it, I'll go away and I'll come back and I will get it. Whether it's whether I've got to get it in another vehicle or whether I've got to go and get a saw and cut it. If I think it's good enough, I will get it. The same could be said for, maybe, MDF at a push. Same again, if the MDF is half decent, and I am doing a project which requires it. I mean, I do use, MDF, maybe some 1/4 inch MDF, but it would only be for maybe the backing of maybe a chest of drawers, something like that. Just to add some strength, rigidity, obviously, just to keep the, any dust from going in, the back end of the chest of drawers, something like that. But other than that, me personally, I wouldn't really, bother with it. So, around here, in the northeast of England, the only thing you do tend to find that is solid wood, in my experience again, obviously this is going to vary over the rest of England, and it's also going to vary over the rest of the world. But typically what I'll tend to find, or what you'll see in the likes of back alleys, furniture wise, it tends to be pine, or spruce, something like that. On occasion you will get lucky and you will find, some oak, like, my next door neighbour, he was lucky enough to find some oak. Although all of the table wasn't like a solid oak, but the tabletop itself was laminated boards, so it is usable. So I mean, pine's kind of alright. I mean, the problem with the newer pine, it's growing more quickly, so it's not as good as the old pine. I'm not really going to get into that today because there's some people that'll argue differently, but so like a lot of it is pine. So I mean, I've actually got written down identifying from like kind of good from bad. You should be able to tell. I mean, for those of you that have like a little bit of experience, you should be able to get past the, is it laminated or is it veneered or is it solid wood? You should kind of be able to get past that, I would have thought. Maybe identifying the wood might be a little bit hard. It might be painted, it might be stains, something like that. Identifying the good from the bad. I mean, I personally think a good find is a dining table. Typically you've got quite a big area that's not going to be damaged. You're going to have a few screw holes on the underside, but pretty much the size of the table, providing that it is like a solid wood of some sort, you're going to have quite a good, like, lot of, usable material. And the good thing about a tabletop is that if you're making, some sort of a chest or anything like that, the boards are already glued together for you, so you can pretty much rip whatever size you want to size, basically. So that's one of the good things about using a tabletop. One of the bad things about using a tabletop, depending on, how long it's been outside and whatever else, that when you take it apart and you take the aprons off, there's a good chance, if it's pine, it's going to bow. Sorry, not bow, it's going to cup. It doesn't always happen, but, kind of, sometimes it can, it is one of those things. So I'm going to talk a little bit about pallet wood, my experiences with pallet wood. I think one of my very first experiences with pallet wood was I actually built a shed out of pallet wood. So I don't know where I seen this. I think this may have been when I first started watching like YouTube or whatever. But basically I used full pallets as a framework, minus the roof. So the floor, the walls. So at the time I was living at my mum's, I had split up with a girlfriend. I had been working down London, ended up splitting up with my girlfriend, so obviously I wasn't living with her anymore, so I ended up going back to my mum's. And there was, or there still is, an industrial estate at the back of my mum's. So me being me, and I wanted a shed, and at the time I didn't want to pay for it. I kind of, every night I would get me push bike, because at the time I only had a small car and I couldn't get pallets like into the back of the car. So every night I would take my push bike and go on to the Bead Industrial Estate and go around all the factories looking for pallets. And I used to get these pallets and just bring them back every night. So I might get like 2 or 3 pallets every night and bring them back. So I gathered enough pallets, and I made a shed. The shed's still standing now. It's been up maybe 10 years, something like that. It is as it is. It's kind of full of gaps. Because one of the things that I didn't know at the time, or all that I didn't take into consideration, was when I acquired, or when I had enough pallets to make the shed, it was like there was snow on the ground. There was a lot of water, there was a lot of rain and stuff. So everything was quite wet. So when the summer come and the wood dried out, obviously the way I'd constructed it, I just butted the edges of the boards that I got off, like what I separated from the pallets. They kind of just went all gappy. Because obviously it dried out, everything shrunk, and so it's full of gaps. It was quite breezy, shall we say. But that was my first shed, and I had everything in that shed. I mean, that's like back when I used power tools. I had a table saw in that shed and everything. So obviously I'd done that. I started making furniture with pallet wood. So I think that the problems with pallet wood are all the things people don't say before they start making furniture with pallet wood. They might kind of say, "Oh, it's a great idea. Let's go and get some pallets and make some furniture." So me personally, I'll avoid pallets like a plague, really. Simply because I personally think they're too much hassle. You've got to tear them apart. I mean, I've actually got a proper tool to take pallets apart. This tool was designed to take pallets apart. But still, you're not guaranteed, even with these sort of tools, you're still not guaranteed to get 100% of the pallet. I don't think I've ever took a pallet apart and got 100% of the pallet. I think that's just part and parcel of making pallet wood furniture. So that's one of the big issues for me. The second issue is removing all the nails and screws. It's just, I mean, I can think back and just remember how long it used to take us, to remove all the screws and nails. It's just a total nightmare. And then on top of the screws and nails, you might have tacks and you might have staples, which was very common. So as I mentioned back then, I was using machines. So I had a thickness planer. So kind of, what do you think happens when you put pallet wood boards in a thickness planer that have still got nails and screws in, and stuff that you've missed? It damages the blades. It'll take big nicks out of the blade. I replaced those blades in that thickness at God knows how many times. I think I got to the point where I said to myself, it's just not worth the aggravation. As I started getting better with woodworking, and obviously I was just getting a lot of free wood, pallet wood, I started like edge jointing, and kind of gluing boards together. That was kind of the point where I started kind of like moving more into, should we say, finer furniture, or maybe more classical construction of furniture. I kind of like start to move that way. So once you start to move that way, and you're still using pallet wood, it starts to get problematic, for various reasons. But I did manage, and, I did make furniture, and I'm not saying this to put people off. I am saying it more so to get people, to make people aware of, it's not a breeze. I've seen these like clips on like TikTok and YouTube and whatever, and it's like, just do this. It's like split second. You see them using a chop saw for like a second, then you see them using a sander for like 2 seconds. What you don't see is, the removal of all the nails. That takes them forever how long. And then you don't see them sanding for an hour with a sander, while they're all dust masked up. And, I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I hate wearing PPE. I don't like wearing glasses. I don't like wearing dust masks. In fact, I despise wearing dust masks. That's probably one of the biggest things I like about hand tools. I don't have to worry about the dust. The dust that's created with hand tools, it's very, very minimum. In fact, it's so minimum that I don't even worry about it. It's just not a concern to me at all. So yeah, I mean, as I said, I don't really want to put people off, but it can be a lot of hard work. And another thing that is the reason why I stopped making pallet wood furniture, because people, how people were reacting. So some of the furniture I made, I mean, I'll be honest with you, some of it was crap. It really was. But there was a few pieces that I made, and I thought, I really, and even now there's one piece, and I'm probably going to use it as the thumbnail for this podcast. So, it'll probably be displayed on, it will be displayed on Instagram and Facebook. So, but that one piece, I really, really liked it. Yeah, I still like it now. I did sell this. I think some guy or some woman come from wherever, come to the house and they bought. I think I sold that on eBay. I think I sold it for about like £45. And I do actually remember selling it for £45. And I remember thinking to myself, how long has this took me? It took us absolutely ages, but I quite liked it. I liked the design of it. I liked how the staining, the finish come out. I just, looking back, I probably should have kept it. If I had kept it, I would have had it, most likely would have had it in my house now. That was probably the only one I did like out the furniture that I made from pallet wood. So there was actually quite a demand for pallet wood back then, pallet wood furniture, rather. I don't know if it's still a thing now. I kind of don't follow things like that. I'm not in the cool gang anymore. I just potter about and I just do my own thing. So I'm not really sure if, like pallet wood furniture is still a thing. But at the time it was. I had a lot of compliments, when people were coming on eBay and, messaging us and stuff and on social media. The problem that I had was that even though the people, were saying, oh, it looks really awesome, it looks great, it looks like you spent a lot of time on it, but it's too expensive. It's like, you've just told us that it looks great, that you can tell that I have spent a lot of time on it, but it's too expensive. you know, some of the offers for like, you know, like tables, what I was getting offered, you know, like the likes of like, I used to do a lot of coffee tables, and I was getting offered like, you know, like 10, 15, 20 pound. And some of these tables were taking us like full days, maybe a couple of days to make. And I do mean full days, you know, and that was one of the biggest things. And I was like, you know, and I've had enough of this sort of thing. So, yeah, that was one of the things that kind of seen us off with Pallet Wood, furniture. And I pretty much vowed I'd never do any more. Me personally now, the only way I would do Pallet Wood furniture is if someone like really asked us, and they were aware that I would be charging them an arm and a leg for it. I literally would charge an arm and a leg because it is a lot of hard work. Anybody that does it now and they do it to a good standard, I'll take my hat off to them because it is a lot of hard work and it is a lot of, you know, like time involved. At least it was for me. So, but as I said, that's the only way I would literally charge them an arm and a leg. So, acquiring materials, this was a bit of a grey area. I don't know how you would stand with it now. I mean, like pallets, like when I was a kid, many moons ago, you used to see pallets all over the place. I mean, like people used to just throw them out. People used to set them alight. You know, everywhere you looked, you would see pallets when I was like a kid, you know, from the age of maybe like 12 up to 18, I used to see them all the time, everywhere. Now, you know, many moons later, you don't tend to see a lot of them, at least I don't, not up the northeast of England. From what I understand, it's actually big business now. There's actually people that'll go around with vans, you know, and from what I believe, you know, they'll know the owners of certain factories and, you know, they'll have a word, can I take pallets? Yes or no. Some of them will give, the factory owners or whoever they speak to, they might give them a little drop of money. You know, to take the pallets away, and then the people that are collecting the pallets will take them away and they'll sell them for however much, and then the companies that buy them will refurbish them and send them back out. So it's kind of, at the moment, or at least the way I say it, if you go and you take a pallet, it's kind of, like, for me, it's a grey area. Because if I want a pallet and I see a pallet lying on the ground outside a factory and it's not nailed down, I'll take it. So it is a bit of a grey area because you could argue that it's thrown out. But then the owners of the factory can argue that you're stealing. So it is a bit of a fine line. So if anyone is kind of gathering pallets, you know, that's maybe something you might want to watch out for, you know, some angry guy running out and chasing you. Or, you know, worse still, they might actually phone the police and, you know, press charges against you. And unfortunately, there's people like that, instead of just, you know, giving you a bit of a warning or a heads up and saying, "Nah, listen, you can't take pallets." You know, there is some not nice people that will, you know, basically make your life awkward just for you trying to, you know, get a little piece of wood for something you enjoy doing, or maybe, you know, trying to make a little bit of extra money. Back alleys is a good place if you live in an area where there's back alleys. You know, people always hide things out in the back alleys, unfortunately. Sometimes it is fortunate for people like us, but, you know, it can get a bit messy in back alleys. So sometimes, you know, you might find little treasures in back alleys. Sometimes there is actual wood yards, although I don't know any myself. I don't know there's actual some wood yards that will like kind of let you take away scraps and whatever. I think that is getting like a bit less these days, because I do believe the scraps that they used to let you take away, they're actually bagging them up and selling them for firewood now. So you might be lucky if you're bold enough and there's a wood yard next year. Why not? Go and ask them. So I'm just looking at my notes, and all my notes are mixed up, but I've got Sapel movement, so this was a bit of a kind of a reminder for us. My first Roman workbench I built was made with Sapel or Sapelli, however you want to pronounce it. So this was taken from a work site. Rather, it was taken from Newcastle College. I was working on there. I was putting the scaffold up. Me and a group of lads were putting the scaffold up. And these boards of Sapelli were actual handrails in the stairwells. From what I understand, it hadn't had like a full refurbishment like the one that they were doing since the 1960s or the 1950s. Was it the 1950s or the 1960s? It was one of the two. So these pieces of Sapel handrail had been in since either the 1950s or the 1960s. So these were absolutely covered. I don't know how many layers of varnish these handrails had on them. It was a lot, it was a lot of varnish. So when I actually started making the bench, I kind of how I made it. I left all the varnish on and I glued it together. Waited for the glue to dry, and then I flattened the top. So when I flattened the top, I obviously, removed, the 60 odd years of varnish that was on. So what I didn't anticipate was, because it was so well sealed with the varnish, God knows how many coats of varnish these sections of handrail had on them. But what I didn't anticipate was that I took the varnish off and allowed air and therefore moisture to re-enter the wood after 60 odd years. Let's just say, for argument's sake. And you should have seen how much it cupped. It cupped a lot. Like a lot. I was like, whoa, I really didn't expect it. So I was like, wow, that's a lot. I was like, I'm going to have to do this, flatten it again. So I flattened it again and the same happened again. It's the only time it's ever happened to us. I have used other materials and it's never ever happened like this before. So obviously flattened it the second time. And it happened again, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to leave that. So however long I left it and I flattened it, it did slightly move again, ever so slightly, but I decided to leave it. I decided that I could live with it. So that is something you want to, kind of take into consideration. You might want to kind of, maybe open up the grain with a plane, reveal the grain to the air and moisture, and maybe let it, sit for a few days, see how it moves, before you start throwing it up too far. You could get it close and then just let it sit and see how see how it behaves. But yeah, that was a funny old week. That I remember that. So probably me last note here was removing the varnish or paint on material. Personally, I've never removed paint. I don't. If there was like a lot of sections of wood painted, I don't think I would remove it unless I knew 100% that the wood underneath was like worth me time and effort. I don't know. Maybe if it was a slab of wood, obviously that's going to be worth me time and effort. Literally, if I had good evidence or good word of mouth that it was there was a slab of wood, like a literal slab of wood, it was solid like oak or elm or something like that, then yeah, I'd probably take my time. But something to take into consideration, it is going to take you a bit of time to get rid of that paint. Me personally, I wouldn't use any sort of chemicals. I would just take my planes like straight into it. The only thing with this, when you are doing this, and it's the same with varnish as well, you probably should wear some sort of dust mask. I can't imagine that the fine particles of varnish or paint that are going to get created by planing are going to be any good for your lungs. So yeah, I would probably recommend that you do wear some sort of a dust mask if you are going to do that. As I said, if you're kind of wanting to retain some of the features of the wood, maybe it has some like really fancy moulding on the edge. Maybe it's a tabletop or something along the lines of that, and it's got some really fancy profiling on the edge. You might want to retain. If it's painted, it's probably going to be a bit of a nightmare to get off. You probably are going to have to use some sort of chemical, or if you're lucky enough to have a moulding plane that's the same or very close, you're going to be able to remove the varnish like that, or the paint. But that could be probably problematic. And as I said, you have got to be careful when you're removing the varnish, when you're revealing like it to the wood. In my house and in the houses of this street that I live in, these are 1930s houses, and there's quite a lot of them that have the original doors. And I know there's been several people in the street that have had the doors dipped. So that's basically they dip the doors in some type of stripping chemical, and then they send the doors back. And I do know that I think every one of them, the doors have warped, the board and twisted to a degree. So that is a problem when you're going to be removing paint or some sort of or varnish. It's always going to be an issue. I do believe, obviously, if you're going to be submerging the doors in chemicals, that is going to be more of an issue, because the wood is going to take up more of the liquid, the chemical, if it's been submerged in it. I'm not fully sure how they actually dip doors. I'm not sure if they dip the door and leave it in and obviously let the chemical work, or, you know, if they dip it in for a little bit, bring it out. I'm not overly sure. In my head, they put it in the chemical and they leave it there for a given amount of time. So I think that's probably the issue with it. So that's something to take into mind if you are going to go down that route of removing the paints, with reclaimed wood. I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to wrap this up now. So again, thank you for listening, everyone. Really appreciate it. Again, with the Patreon or the courses, I'd really appreciate some feedback. If you could spare a couple of minutes of your day, I would really like a bit of feedback. If you could do that for me, please. And until the next time, I shall speak to you guys later.